The question is, does question number 3, the statement is false, pertain to the headline, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath, or does it pertain to the content of the statement, everything written in the op-ed? So I think the confusion came in this particular one because the statement in question is the title of the op-ed. So I think they're just confused as whether it's the whole op-ed or just the title is the statement. And it's clear that the title is the statement. So I was going to answer to say the title is the statement in question for number 3. Does that seem appropriate to everybody?
And there you have it, Judge Penny Escarate telling the lawyers and us, the public, Law and Crime Network, all of you, the viewers, that the jury had a question. And the question is something I want to discuss with Karen Felicia Nance, trial attorney, who is here with me. I'm Linda Kenny Bodden, as you know, on the Law and Crime Network. But Karen Felicia Nance is here with me, and let's talk about it. Karen, okay, so the special instructions that the jury has to make findings on also are mimicked in the special verdict form. They're basically equal, right? They're basically the same thing. So here the jury had a question on that when they have to vote for their findings, and they wanted to know, does special instruction 3 relating to would be corresponding to jury question number 1, does the I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath, that has to change, relate to just that statement? Was that statement defamatory, or do you look at the statement and the content together? Tell our viewers why it matters that the jury asked this question.
Thank you, Linda. It's a huge question in terms of clarity for the jury, because the article is pretty lengthy in terms of having to go line by line to figure out each and every sentence in that article. Is this defamatory? Is this defamatory? It really narrows the scope of what they have to focus on and makes that particular question much easier for them to address. And we have plenty of testimony that they've heard throughout the trial. We listened to the audio tapes for them to make that determination. I think it makes it much easier for them, and it shows that they're, one, being very specific, going through each and every, not only instructions, but also the findings page. So I think that it just makes it a lot easier, a lot cleaner and crisper, and they can focus on this one sentence, basically. So I think it's a good start.
Yeah, and they have to know what they're finding and what they're deliberating about before they can vote. So it's one step closer. Anyhow, we're going to leave the jury to deliberate for a second and take you back to some of the major clips in the trial. And, you know, there were many articles, much discussion, and there was much focus in the courtroom. Did Amber Heard have bruises from Johnny Depp, and did she cover them up? So let's listen to her talk about the makeup routine she said she used to conceal what she said was the violence by her then husband, Johnny Depp.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about as a color correction kit. This is not obviously the exact one I used to carry, but I used to carry it with me all the time. Sometimes this pink is sometimes a little bit more purple of a hue, and sometimes the kits are 3 colors. You can get them in 3 or 4 colors. Sometimes they have even more. But the idea is that you want to counteract whatever color you're working with on the bruise. So the first day of bruising, well, the immediate is red. Red is what shows up right away. So you want to go with the opposite on the color wheel by dabbing on a bit of the green or something to counteract the red. After a day or 2, you get more purple in a bruise. So you'd obviously have to go with more of the red tones, the orange tones here. Day 2 for me was always the trickiest because day 2 just, I feel like, well, day 1 and day 2 are hardest for me because that's when you get the most blues and purples, and you have to deal with the sensitivity. Bruises don't like to be touched. That's the whole point. So that's the trickiest part, but after a few days, that becomes more of that blue becomes more of a brown, yellowish browns, like you know, 5-7 days in, becomes more of a yellow-green, and then fades into a brown, and then into your skin. And whatever color you're working with in the bruise, you want to go opposite color on the color wheel. The opposite, I mean, so in the first couple of days when you have more of the typical bruise color, the blues and the purples, you want to go more of the orange on the color wheel, as opposed to the greens that you start with, and then it progresses from there. I also noticed that bruising on your face tends to heal a lot faster than, at least for me, it was faster healing than bruises on my body, or at least it seemed like that to me. And a nose is pretty much unrecognizable after a day or two, depending on how much you ice it. Lips are the hardest because they crack and bleed, of course, but it's easy to hide with lipstick if you're a woman, or, you know, if you wear lipstick, I suppose.
Now, we heard some testimony of people in the week of May 21st to 27th saying that you didn't wear a stitch of makeup. Oh, was that true?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
They just don't know what they're talking about. I always wear makeup.
Okay. You always wear makeup?
I mean, it's part of my bathroom routine in the morning. You know, wash my face. I put on moisturizer. My moisturizer has tinted foundation in it, and I'm certainly not going to walk around LA with bruises on my face.
Okay.
Okay, let's discuss this clip, because online, obviously, people watching justice in the courtroom, this clip really garnered some attention. Karen Felicia Nance is still with me, and joining me here in the studio is Gabriel. I said to Gabriel before, I have friends who are Gabriel Sepulveda-Sanchez. You normally see him not in the studio, so here he is, right in New York City. So Gabriel, let me ask you this. You're a man. There are 5 men on that jury. It's a 5-2 split on that jury. It's men to women. When she's talking about this makeup routine, did it make sense to you, or did you say, huh?
You know what? As a man, from personal experience, it doesn't make that much sense. It doesn't make sense to me. I didn't have any sisters growing up. I didn't watch my mom put on makeup too much growing up, so I'm not really sure how credible that is how you apply your makeup. So, from a male perspective, I wouldn't know how to answer that one, but I think it's interesting that in the jury selection phase, I'm sure these kind of topics are brought up. You're going to want to explore different things like this, especially this testimony is key to her defense of a truth. If what she said and made these statements, let's assume the defamatory statements, if she can establish that these statements were true, then this knocks out Johnny Depp's case. So I think this is just really going to establish whether or not her allegations her statements she made about Johnny Depp, assuming the jury thinks they're defamatory, if those statements were true by Amber Heard, then this is going to knock his case out. So I think it's key testimony to hear, and the jury's going to really want to kind of evaluate whether she's being credible there. I have a hard time finding if she was credible with those statements as far as how she puts her makeup on. But yeah, it's interesting to hear this.
So Karen Felicia Nance, I have had people text to me that if you look at Amber Heard in the courtroom, her makeup, I mean, I'll just turn my head, right? You really can't see. My makeup's not professionally done. But I don't have that look of that blush up there. That perhaps that almost looked like a bruise, and if she could do that in the courtroom where it looks so much like a bruise, how do we know that she didn't put on the bruise if she's such a makeup artist or expert herself? Do you find that kind of comment credible?
I do. And I think the other thing that disturbs me about Amber's testimony, the clip we just saw, she indicates that she wears makeup all the time because she's not going to walk around downtown or around LA with no makeup on when she has a bruise. Well, does she have a bruise every single day? I mean, so either you wear makeup all the time or you only put on makeup when you have these bruises that you're trying to cover. And when she was discussing the color wheel, it was like a class. It wasn't from a space of I've been abused and I have these bruises I have to cover, and so I'm having an emotional tie to this because it was very painful for me. It seemed so matter of fact, so that to me went directly to her credibility, and it came off as just a walk in the park. This is just something I do. It didn't emote any sense of pain of all the supposed experiences that she's had as a result of trying to cover up these bruises. So that struck out to me with this clip we just saw.
Well, to try to support her credibility in the courtroom, Amber Heard's lawyers called her makeup artist, Melanie Iglesias, who also did makeup for Johnny Depp, we heard, at various times. And she told the jury about times that she said she did have to cover up a bruise on Amber Heard's face and a cut on Amber Heard's lip before she went on TV. So why don't we listen?
On December 16, 2015, did you return to Amber Heard's penthouse?
Yes.
And why did you come to Amber Heard's penthouse on December 16?
It was the James Corden show. She had an appearance, so I came back to work.
And when you arrived at the penthouse on December 16, please describe for me what you observed about Amber Heard's face and any injuries.
When I came to the penthouse on December 16 to do Amber's makeup, she had injuries. She had too light, like, I don't know how, I don't know, I mean, I'm not a medical expert, I don't know how I would describe them, but it could have looked like somebody had headbutted her lightly, so she had a discoloration here, under both eyes, and on the bridge of the nose. And she had what I would call a split lip or something on the lip, like a gash or a split lip.
Ms. Iglesias, I'm going to ask you to look at what has been marked as exhibit number 11. Do you recognize this photo as being Amber Heard's head?
Yes.
Okay. And could you please describe for me what this photo is showing?
It's showing a chunk of missing hair.
And what, if anything, did you observe on December 16 about Amber Heard missing a chunk of hair?
I remember this because she showed it to us, and I looked at it.
Okay. And can you describe what is depicted right along her scalp there?
I don't know.
Do you recall that there was some bruising along the scalp and some pus, for lack of a better word?
I don't recall.
Could you please describe what you did by way of makeup to prepare Amber Heard for the James Corden show on December 16, 2015?
Yes, we covered, you know, I just did makeup, but just a little heavier where it needed. So we covered, you know, the discoloration or the bruises with a little slightly heavier concealer, one that has a little more of a peach undertone, which I would normally don't use on Amber, but peach do cancel blue. So I did that under the eyes, and although Amber always, you know, has a red lip, is one of the signature look, I remember clearly talking that we had no other option that night but then to use a red blood, like a really red lipstick to, you know, make sure we could cover up the injuries on the lip.
And were you able to cover all of the injuries with the makeup that you applied and as you just described?
Yes.
Ms. Iglesias, if you could look at what has been marked as exhibit number 22, do you recognize Amber Heard in that picture?
Yes.
Okay. And is this the picture of her? Is this a picture of her that evening, December 16, 2015, on the James Corden show?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you observe on the difference in Amber Heard's demeanor before the show and then on the show?
That she had the ability to, you know, turn it on, that she, you know, the ability to do her job and perform how she was supposed to perform on the show.
And prior to Amber going on the show and while you were working with her on her makeup, how would you describe Amber's mood and demeanor?
Angry, sad, a little erratic.
Karen Felicia Nance, let me go to you first. Did the ability to turn it on and do what you had to do, become that star on TV, did that take away from the makeup artist saying that she used red lipstick and just covered the bruises up with this color wheel and her looking so absolutely picture perfect? Did the two cancel each other out, or will the jury take them separately?
I think that the jury will take the totality of Amber's appearance, not only as she's sitting there listening to the testimony, but also her testimony on the stand. And as the clip just showed, she looked forlorn, sad, in that clip. And so I think that shows us that she does have that ability to turn it on and turn it off whenever she wants. She's a great actress in that respect. So I think that it does impact the credibility or the believability of this particular witness, only to the extent that Amber could be fooling her. And I think that that's probably what happened in this particular case.
Wow, and that's something to be said. And I'm sure the jury is discussing those exact terms. Karen Felicia Nance, Gabriel will stay with me. We're going to take a quick break here at the Law and Crime Network. As you know, this is For the Record on the Law and Crime Network. I'm Linda Kenny Bodden. On the other side, guess what we'll do? More Depp. But stay with us, and we'll let you know what's happening in that courtroom, maybe in that jury room if they have another question. We'll be right back.
The question is, does question number 3, the statement is false, pertain to the headline, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath, or does it pertain to the content of the statement, everything written in the op-ed? So I think the confusion came in this particular one because the statement in question is the title of the op-ed. So I think they're just confused as whether it's the whole op-ed or just the title is the statement. And it's clear that the title is the statement. So I was going to answer to say the title is the statement in question for number 3. Does that seem appropriate to everybody?
And that is Judge Escarate in court just a little while ago telling us that the jury had the first question, which was, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change. Do they look at that statement by itself, or do they look at it in the context of the content of the op-ed? And she answered it. They look at that statement to see if that statement by itself is defamatory. So let me bring Gabriel Sepulveda-Sanchez into this. Gabriel, I want to get your thoughts about this, because it seems to me that perhaps maybe the jury instructions were not that clear. If the jury, at this point, didn't realize that they're only looking at that statement alone and not anything else.
Yeah, it's very true. The jury instructions might not have been that clear. Speaking as someone that's done jury trials and has been involved with creating jury instructions or special jury instructions, sometimes the forms that the state gives you to submit aren't really clear, and if you have to create your own special verdict form or special jury instructions to help aid the jury, sometimes they get confused a little bit. But I think the good thing to note is that the fact that they're taking their time with this and asking questions is really important. And I think whenever that's a good sign. Whenever you're waiting for that verdict, as an attorney, you're always looking at what kind of questions they're asking you. From my experience, though, you can't really predict which way it's going to go by the questions they're asking, but it still shows me that there's a good leader in there that really wants to get this done right and make sure they're following the law. So I think it was a good question to ask, whether the title, whether they're going to be referencing the title or the content in general. And I think you have to ask yourself, if they are, the judge said that they're taking the title as the defamatory statement, is that title, is it clear to the public that that is referencing Johnny Depp, though? And I really kind of, if you're looking at the whole of the article, it might weigh more in favor of Johnny Depp. But if you're just looking at the statement itself, is that statement itself, how do we know they're not talking about a previous relationship or something, some sort of other? It just doesn't seem as clear just from that title itself that they're referencing Johnny Depp. I mean, we all know that.
Let me just say, I think that was answered kind of in court, though, by her when she said that, Gabriel. So but you make a good point. Of course, we don't know whether or not it's just one juror in there saying we have to look at the whole op-ed and they want clarification for that one juror. But you know what? Let's both of you stay with me, because now I want to look at some of what happened at the trial. And this was one very important piece, because as you know, related to that statement, Gabriel, was the fact that it involves sexual violence. And Amber Heard did allege that Johnny Depp had committed sexual assault on her a number of times. One of them has been in the Bahamas in 2015, and she was cross-examined on it. So why don't we listen to this portion of the trial?
You testified that you and Mr. Depp got into a fight while on the island in December of 2015, correct?
That's correct.
And this all started because you perceived Mr. Depp as nodding off during the trip, right?
I thought he was passing out again in a similar fashion to what he had done the previous year.
And when he nodded off, he spilled wine on you, correct?
Yeah, 2-3 times in a row.
You testified that Mr. Depp's son, Jack, was there when this happened, right?
At the beginning, he was there.
He was there when Mr. Depp allegedly spilled wine on you 2 or 3 times, right?
He was there for that because he offered me help.
Right. You also testified that Mr. Depp then sexually assaulted you in the bathroom, correct?
That's correct.
And you testified that after this, you needed to get away from him, right?
That is correct.
So you ran out of the house.
That's correct.
And you admit you threw something at him, right?
I did throw something at him to get away.
You sat in this courtroom when Tara Roberts testified, right, Ms. Heard?
I did.
She's Mr. Depp's manager on the island.
Yes, that's correct.
You heard her testify that she witnessed an argument between you and Mr. Depp on the island in December of 2015, right?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
And you heard her testify that Mr. Depp was trying to escape you, right?
I don't know if she characterized it like that, but that was the gist of it. She kind of misrepresented it to seem like that, yes.
She misrepresented it. How convenient.
That's correct.
Okay, and
When I say I'm going to try and change X, Y, and Z thing or work on blah, 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 I can only do those things. And since I have been doing those things,
what things have you been doing?
working on those things and not doing certain things, trying to change certain things. That's less several times.
Hence, screaming when I spilled wine accidentally on you for falling asleep, and screaming in front of my kids and freaking Jack out. And that's trying.
I would appreciate. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Johnny.
That him up, you know.
I'm sorry I f***ed son up.
No, it weirded him out. It never.
I'm so sorry I fucked kids up.
You didn't f- my kids up, but
I'm
it
so
was pretty.
sorry.
It was pretty weird for him, you know.
Because I jumped up and screamed because I had one. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm surprised he's for the council. I'm sure that's terrifying.
I don't need your
No, you're right.
your clever
It's not against me again.
comebacks.
It's so-
No, you think you're controlling yourself.
Your character.
You think you're controlling
Your
yourself.
character has become so clear, especially when you use them. It's embarrassing for you. I'm gonna walk away now because you're actually making me see even worse. And believing me, I'm not gonna be calling you at 3 o'clock in the morning after I've had an Ambien and think, oh, I'm gonna just forgive and move on. Trust me, it is gross how you're using the kids. I've done nothing but be there for them in a good way. And if you take that for granted, fine. You're right. Meet a woman who would not jump up and scream if she'd been spilled on 3 times in a row. And I hope you're happy with whoever that is, because that would be a special kind of person, no doubt.
it's you and Mr. Depp in that recording, right?
That's correct.
And you're discussing what happened in the Bahamas in December of 2015, right?
No, that's not correct. We were discussing a part of it.
You're discussing when you screamed at Mr. Depp in front of his children, correct?
No, we were talking about a part of that argument.
Including when you screamed at Mr. Depp in front of his children.
That's not a fair characterization of what happened.
Mr. Depp says you screamed at him when he accidentally spilled wine on you, correct?
I realize that's what Johnny said.
Yeah, and Mr. Depp tells you that this freaked out his son, Jack.
Johnny often used other people to back him up in our arguments.
You don't seem too concerned about that, do you?
I had a lot of concerns.
You don't mention Mr. Depp sexually assaulting you in this recording, do you?
That was not the point of that conversation. If I had gotten into the details of what happened to me with him, it would have been another fight.
You just accused Mr. Depp of, quote, using his kids, right? In that
He
recording.
would often
misheard.
use other people, yes.
And you challenge him to find a woman who will not, quote, jump up and scream if she has been spilled on 3 times in a row.
That is correct.
Not a woman who would put up with sexual abuse, right?
I was pointing out the ridiculous nature of him expecting me not to react to something that basic.
Karen Felicia Nance, the cross-examination, did it do any damage in the way that Amber Heard answered the questions, never admitting to what's on the tape or not seeming to care about Johnny Depp's kid? Was it the cross-examination itself, or was it the answers, or did Amber Heard do well?
I think it was a combination, Linda, of both. I think it was how she answered the questions, the tape itself, and I think everyone would agree that children are sacred ground, and you never. That's such a low blow to use someone's kids, even in a way that infers, and she more than inferred. She actually told Johnny on several occasions that he was a deadbeat dad. So I think that the way she answered those questions posed by Camille Vasquez with regard to Jack, Johnny's son, seemed just a little callous, and that now that she has a daughter, I think that she would be in a different position if somebody even remotely brought her child to a discussion like that. And so I think she comes across as non-caring, especially with regard to sensitive issues around children. So I think that not only the audio we heard, but also the way her mannerisms and how she addressed or answered Camille's questions also was an indication of her lack of concern for his children, and I don't think that bodes well for her at all in the jury's eyes.
So, Gabriel, you have picked a number of juries, as have all of us. When we pick juries, we try to get people that will listen to our side. But is there a gender bent here in terms of how different people will react? If you were one of the attorneys picking the jury, now that we know that there are 5 men and 2 women, do you think that they will come to an agreement and see the evidence the same way? Or do you think that men and women could view that clip differently as to how Amber Heard did?
No, I think when you're picking a jury, you definitely want to, there's a big issue with the gender biases, and you want to explore that, and you want to, if I was Johnny Depp's lawyer, you definitely want to talk to the women on the jury and say, hey, could you be fair to this client? Has anyone here been a victim of domestic violence? And can you understand that men can be victims of domestic violence too? And you want to explore those areas. And I have confidence that the women can be, the men can be fair to Amber Heard, and then the women can be fair to Johnny Depp too. These are just these are gender biases are a big topic in jury selection. You really want to explore that and dismiss anyone that you think is not going to be fair to either side. So I think in this case, I don't think that's going to be an issue here. I have faith in the process, and I think as long as they explore those issues and got rid of the bad juries and for both sides, and I think they're going to end up with a fair jury here.
And hopefully they will when they come to their verdict. Anyhow, we're going to take a quick break here at the Law and Crime Network, but on the other side, you won't want to miss this, because we're going to look at some of Johnny Depp's testimony in this trial, including whether he did well on the stand when he came back in rebuttal of Amber Heard's case. And wow, I'll guarantee you that both my guests will have some opinions on this. Stay with us. We're the Law and Crime Network.